maybe I'm not LeBron of real estate.
And I'm not going to beg you to be.
Okay.
That may be my answer.
Okay.
When you're asking how do we know what people are capable of, the short answer is I don't have a fucking clue what most people are capable of. I don't know what I'm capable of. What I do know is that I have a desire to continue to grow and achieve and accomplish more because I've seen other people do it. I choose to believe God's no respecter of persons, meaning there's no one person that's inherently better than another. So you show me someone who's accomplished something, relatively speaking, I'm not going to be Michael Jordan, but Michael Jordan became Michael Jordan not because of how he was born or his inherent talent.
There's a lot of people 6'6" with the same physique as him.
That's right. So I say that anything, relatively speaking, in the context of the conversation, you show me someone who's achieved something, I now have a belief that I can. Now, whether or not the belief is big enough that I'm willing to go do the work to do it, that's the rub. Most people believe that they could have a big house or a nice car or the things that society deems as successful. I've seen enough successful people and realize they're successful and have the monetary success that we look at because they're incredible communicators, have incredible relationships with people, serve all kinds of people, have great relationships with their kids and their family. Their health is right. Their habits are right. Their words are spot on. And the rest is a default. Along the way, while we're chasing the cars, while we're chasing the houses and the monetary success, along the way, we figure out that we get those by default of figuring this other thing out. But people have to want something. Call it ambition, call it drive, call it a chip on your shoulder. I don't care. But I'm not going to force anyone to be the LeBron of real estate. And again, I would have chosen a better metaphor by saying the Michael Jordan of real estate because LeBron sucks. I don't care if I'm near Ohio or not. I'm just not a LeBron fan. I think he's a big baby. But
hey, guys, cheers to babies. Cheers to babies. I can see people right now taking images of LeBron and putting diapers on him. It's already been done.
Listen,
right?
I respect the hell out of what he's accomplished in his career, and I don't dislike him as a person. But I don't like the comparison of is LeBron James as good or great? Is he the greatest compared to Michael Jordan? Because I think when you measure both the stats and the intangibles, there's no comparison. I think if anybody was close, it would be Kobe because of his mind. Now, when you put the stats side by side, maybe not. I'm more of a fan of someone who is working on their mind and taking action and failing like crazy than I am of someone who waits to be super strategic and then knocks it out of the park.
Okay, how do we convince ourselves to do it? So if you're not someone who wakes up like Phil Treadwell, I don't. For this conversation, I don't care how hard it's been or why it's. But how does someone know that they have to work? Because the analogy you're making is, I think you're trying to say that Jordan had to work harder than LeBron.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, I should say Michael and LeBron because it's right. So James versus Jordan. Okay, how does someone know how to do it? So if we talked about the story on Michael Jordan, the books are written. You have something there, but didn't he get cut from his high school basketball team, Michael Jordan, right? As a sophomore. So tell us the story. Tell us the story of Jordan in the.
Yeah, he, I think, was like an average high school kid, played basketball, was cut from his sophomore team. It pissed him off. He got a chip on his shoulder, came back and made the team his junior year, went to North Carolina, won the game-winning shot on March 29th, 1982, for North Carolina to beat Georgetown for the national championship game. And I know that date because it was the date I was born, and I'm pretty sure the time he made the shot was about the time that I was coming
out of the
into
womb.
This earth, right? So me and Jordan are connected. I believe that, and he realized that he had to create things for him to get the edge. So let's unpack this for just a second.
I got somewhere I want to go on this too.
Super important.
Yep.
Jordan would create a game within a game. He would find reasons to get himself fired up. Just being good, just being great, just being the best, I don't even know that was his pursuit. And if it was, it wasn't enough for him. He would find reasons to piss himself off to get himself not motivated, but driven to perform at the next level. And it took a massive amount of self-awareness to do that. Most people aren't willing to cut themselves open and look on the inside because both literally and metaphorically that hurts, to find out how we actually tick, what we really believe, so that we know how to get our own goat, for whatever expression. I know for me what gets me fired up and what doesn't, that just doesn't really get me all that excited. What Jordan was a master of is when the time came that he knew he needed to get to the next level, he would manufacture something that wasn't even real just to get him in the right mindset to absolutely crush everyone. And any little slight in the game.
Someone might say hello to him he perceived the wrong way, and they had no intent behind it.
Yes.
And he'd be like, they're antagonizing me.
And here's the thing. He may have known that was just a normal hello, but he was, I don't know if it's disciplined, creative, I don't know what word to use to describe it, but he would say, nuh-uh, that wasn't a normal hello. That was a, I'm going to whip your ass tonight. And he would take the next few hours and stew on it to where he'd come out and crush them. And he would do it throughout the game, right? Hakeem Olajuwon, there's a cool story about when Jordan closed his eyes and made the free throw. They were talking about Hakeem Olajuwon. There's this, or Dikembe Mutombo, I'm not really sure. It was one with a very unique name. And they came into the league and they're talking about how awesome he was or whatever. And they were like talking trash while Jordan was on the free throw line. He closes his eyes, shoots it, makes it, turns to the guy and says, "Welcome to the NBA." Like, you need to know who I am and what world you're in if you're going to be here. And I think that's what it takes to win. You know, we talk about having a why that's big enough. For some people, just having your why, what it is you're doing it for, what it is you're trying to accomplish, sometimes that's enough. Sometimes the why is so big, you have to build yourself checkpoints along the way. I use the example of there's a loan officer that was getting a ton of leads, just massive amount of leads, and he wasn't converting on him hardly at all. And part of it was because he had this incredible system, and I use the metaphor. He was saying, "Hey guys, you need to look at me. I'm a badass Sherpa, and that's Mount Everest, and we're getting ready to climb Mount Everest. But be glad you're with me because I'm the best Sherpa that's out there." And what I told him is, dude, like, people don't want to climb Mount Everest. They want a pre-approval letter. What you should have done is say, "Hey, see that checkpoint right there? That one that's just right over there? Hey, I'm going to walk you to that checkpoint. Let's just have a conversation while we're walking." And then when they get to that checkpoint and they need something else, you're going to walk them to the next checkpoint. And then when you get done, sit here and say, "Hey, you guys didn't know it, but we were climbing Mount Everest. You didn't even know. That was pretty easy, right? It's because I'm a badass Sherpa," right? Just reframing it. The challenge is most people don't want to climb Mount Everest, and even if you do, you're smart enough to know you don't just go climb Mount Everest. You have to create the checkpoints along the way, and I think in a weird way, that's what Jordan was doing. He, in the back of his mind, wanted to become the greatest of all time, but you didn't become the greatest of all time in one game or two games or a season or a championship, and he continued to have to do that. And stuff came up along the way. Had he not played baseball for a couple of years, what would we be really talking about?
9 championships.
Would there even be a debate
Nope.
right now?
Nope.
But again, he had to find that thing, and when he no longer could do it, 100 and whatever games a year in the NBA, he'd done it so many times, he ran out of stuff. That's natural. He went to baseball, had a new set of experiences, new set of circumstances, and then came back and did it again.
And what was the documentary that came out? It was perfect timing during COVID. They hit that thing. What was it called? The Last Dance?
Yeah, The Last Dance.
So Jerry Reinsdorf, who was the owner of the Bulls and the White Sox.
Idiot.
Right? But here's what he said about Jordan, about him playing baseball. He said, I went back and watched this, I think a month or two ago in the evenings, and I was like, man, that's so good. I want to plug in more to what was going on in Jordan's brain. He said, if he would have stuck with baseball, I think he would have been a great major league player. And to have the foresight, because Jordan, he wasn't, I don't even know what level of good, but he started at Double-A, which is usually the step. A lot of people think it's Triple-A. Double-A is the step before you go to the majors. I don't understand why, but I think it is. Is that correct?
I don't know for sure,
Okay.
but it sounds right.
So they had him playing there. And when Reinsdorf said that, I'm like, why is he making that statement? What is it about looking at that guy who's only batting 200 in Double-A, who only hit like one home run. What is it? What did Reinsdorf know as an owner where he's seen all these top-level athletes come through, where he made that definitive statement? If he would have stuck with baseball, here's what I think it is. See, that sophomore in high school, that Michael Jordan, he already had the Hall of Fame Michael Jordan in him. He just kept going.
Yeah.
How many of us have a Michael Jordan inside of us? We just don't keep going.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I actually know the reason he went to baseball. At least the story that I understand, because I had grandparents that grew up that lived in Chicago, so I grew up a Cubs fan, a Bears fan, a Bulls fan. I've been obsessed with Michael Jordan my whole life. I've got memorabilia and posters, and I have a 6x6 inch piece of the old Chicago Stadium floor. Like I was just obsessed. What happened was his dad died. And there's all kinds of stories and books and different things about their dynamic. Some say it was an awesome one. Some say there was some unhealthy dynamics there as far as not mental abuse per se, but just the dynamic wasn't healthy or conducive to whatever. But when his dad died, all of a sudden that person that had been there, either in a positive way or a negative way, left, and it was different. And what people don't understand is part of the reason that Jordan got cut his sophomore year in basketball was because he was such a good baseball player. Like, he was a baseball player much better than he was a basketball player at that season of his life. So when his dad died, and any time something ends, you're nostalgic and go back and think about how it began. So I think at the end of his dad's life, he went back to early memories he had with his dad, which was around baseball. And I think, from what I understand, was one of the biggest driving forces. But then once that wears off and he came back to the core of who he was, that happened. And that's why he did number 45 for a while before he went back to 23. He had never been on a basketball court wearing 23, and his dad not been there. So he switched to 45 because his dad was no longer there. But again, he needed to come back to who he was. And it's interesting because I think his story, one of the reasons I'm most fascinated with it, is really the human evolution at a grand scale of greatness, seeing him unfold. Like the thing that made him great in a sport and in life was also his biggest demon in the gambling issues that he had and in his marriage and different things. The same asset that we all swear up and down we love and would love to have ourselves, it's a double-edged sword. And I think with some people, that's a big part of why they don't pursue things, is maybe they're smarter than we are. Maybe they know, hey, any level of success also has a downside. Any level of commitment has an opportunity cost. Maybe it's a conscious choice, and they're just not willing to make that. But for most, I think it really just boils down to belief.
So will you ever sit down for a conversation with Michael Jordan?
Yes, I will at some point in time, whether it's on a podcast or whether I just get to meet him face-to-face, absolutely. I think one of the things that's been super interesting about my time and getting around and spending time with influential people, they're just like everybody else, which we all say we know, but we think there's something inherently special. And some people are absolutely special, but everyone's special in their own way. I don't mean that cliche. I think every single person has a special and uniqueness about them. It's just whether or not they're willing to accentuate it for the world to see. Most people just don't know what it is, so they don't know how to put it out there, or they choose not to put it out there. But I truly believe if people will spend enough time, they can find something truly special and unique about them. It just may not be what we want it to be, right? But those people that have influence, that have really made it the elite, if you will, it's not that they're doing something special or unique. It's that they're doing something different. And I think it's lonely at the top. Therefore, they want to be around other people that also understand what it took to get there. We said a second ago, you attract people to you like you are. The reason celebrities hang out with each other and elite athletes spend time with each other, they know what it took to get there. If you go hang out with an average person, what's that person going to talk about? All they want to do is ask you questions about how you got there. and all you want to do is talk to someone else that understands what it took to get there. That's really what it's about. So being around those types of people, what I found is, as much as I want to ask them 1,000 questions or get their opinion, I talk about the weather and I talk about pop culture. I talk about their hobbies.
Why?
Because I want them to know I'm a safe person for them to be around or talk to or communicate with without me asking something of them.
So that's a higher level of thinking. What you're just talking about is you're focused on what that person needs and wants,
Yeah.
versus you.
But again, it's not a selfless thing. It's to create the level of trust that at some point in time, if I want to ask a question or want something from them.
But it's intentional.
Yeah. 100%.
That's a high level of intentionality that you're talking about here.
It's a whole strategy of, I want to know something from this person, but because everyone comes to them and asks them for something, I want to give them what I think they might actually need, which is a normal person to be around at a normal conversation, because they don't have a lot of that in their life and in their business. So when I become that safe person, I can potentially ask them anything I want.